The financial impact of the global crisis continues to be felt in all areas of entertainment. No greater part of that population has been affected than the tourism industry, of course, and there might be positive signs ahead. Maybe. Can things actually get back to normal? I hope so.
Ladies and gentlemen, Is and foes, welcome to the Culture Casino!
Currently, as everyone knows right now, the United States have many states that are still severely locked down. And they're locked down in varying different ways. In fact, many countries around the world are still locked down in similar fashion. While we can all argue about the effectiveness of these particular efforts and everything that goes along with those efforts, it can't be denied that this has been very, very costly. In fact, any of the efforts that have been tried against this have been costly in financial regards or in human lives. Now, for the tourism industry, at least here in the United States, there is no bigger pull than Walt Disney World in Florida. And about a month ago or so, or a little longer than that, I guess, I ventured out to Central Florida to experience the reopening of the theme parks and get a chance to, feel it out for myself. What I found, if you haven't actually watched any of those videos, and they're still up there, by the way. You can see the ones that I posted while I was there. I found that the parks were pretty empty. In fact, all 4 of the parks that I visited on multiple days were pretty empty. A lot of the reports that you've seen that show the parks empty, believe them, because they have been. Now, it wasn't necessarily that the parks were empty because of fear, or because there weren't plenty of folks that are actually willing to attend the parks, or to, show up at Disney at all, because during my visit, I noticed that the Disney Springs area was crowded. The food, the drink, and the shopping areas, they were all absolutely full of people. And I think this was part of the design by Disney, at least initially. The design, of course, I think was way too effective, which is, not the first time this has happened at a Disney park, or at least when they open up something new in a Disney park. And Disney hadn't actually officially announced what would be, or what they were adjusting it to prior to reopening their parks during the CUF. The best information that I got was that it was initially set at about 20%, adjusted regularly based on the local numbers, what was happening around them. This would naturally keep the number of guests severely limited, so of course you're going to have depressed attendance levels, but it also was designed to cater to the actual theme park guests, rather than and those being the out-of-town guests, of course, rather than the locals that regularly make use of all the parks and their facilities. They actually created a new entitlement program that basically limited you to one park, and you had to select that park in advance. They also limited the type of accommodations that were open, the types of hotels, those specific locations, which further reduced options for people that were attempting to schedule a visit. So, thus, there were also reductions in the dining options inside the theme parks as well. They also limited the shopping options that were open. So all in all, across the board, Disney did everything they could to limit people's options, which is not terribly consumer friendly. So observing this from the outside, like I am now, and from within, like on my visit, Disney had repeated the exact same mistakes that they had made when they were opening the Galaxy's Edge park. at least the expansion that they put in place in Disneyland and then eventually in Disney World. They made the visit overly complicated with an expectation of greater inconvenience for traveling just to be there. That inconvenience obviously is a turnoff. It led to fewer people showing up, and another example that they've had a lack of foresight and poor planning and ignorance of guests' actual desires. Now, with fewer out-of-state visitors because of the hassle that Disney created, the attendance numbers remained low enough that more local spots were opened up and they were added on a consistent basis, sometimes every single day. This presented a new problem when it came to earnings for the parks because the locals, when they visit, are likely to be pass holders, which means they don't represent any additional ticket revenue. They also spend less in the parks during their visits and of course now they have fewer options to spend their money on when they do visit. So they were keeping their money in their pockets when they showed up. Now, the most obvious mistake here is that they have removed the option to park hop. This takes away the incentive to buy an upgraded ticket if you're an out-of-state visitor or any kind of day guest for that matter. But more importantly, it kept a huge portion of revenue from entering the biggest park that they have in Epcot, because that park generates a ton of money from food and beverage sales during any of their events that they have multiple times a year, their festivals, not to mention all of the restaurants that they have scattered throughout that property. So I don't understand. Anyway, as I've heard from multiple sources multiple times at this point, the option to park hop to Epcot is being strongly considered in the very near future, which is good because they're about to kick off a festival, or maybe they just have, I think. And let's hope that that actually does happen very, very soon. There have been rumblings about opening up the Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom to the park hopping options as well. Any of these types of efforts will require Disney to change how they manage their attendance and will require them to close the parks at specific attendance levels, much like Universal Orlando is doing down the street. Now, at least this would give options to any of the guests that were visiting, and it would allow for the certain amount of freedom that all of the guests had become familiar with and what the parks were well known for. Even if that was paired with the occasional disappointment of a guest being turned away at the gate because the park was full, I think they could manage their way around that by just changing the way they do the park entitlement and allowing you to change parks in the app ahead of time. So why do I bring any of this up? Well, it's simple. Disney and some other companies of note have recently rolled back the pay cuts that they had taken from executive level employees. Now, obviously, these were in response to the COOF that we've been dealing with for a while, but because they've eliminated these recently and restored compensation levels, I was quite surprised. This change has been done in spite of a earnings per share drop of 94% during the last conference call or a quarterly call, and this was done despite losing nearly $5 billion in revenue for the quarter. That's a lot of money. Now, we know the only thing going positively for Disney right now is their streaming services, which they really upsold during the quarterly call, but those earnings aren't very significant. In fact, almost non-existent in comparison with any of the other sectors' earnings that they would normally be collecting. Now, should we look to significant changes in the operation of Disney's theme parks in the near future because of this type of activity? This move would actually suggest that they're anticipating a better quarter or another round of significant layoffs possibly in various sectors. That would be a bad message to send. But is it possible that the Disney company will change its tune publicly and remove itself from the political entrenchment that it has settled into? If so, will we start to see evidence of this in their news and sports coverage? How about their television and theatrical productions? I guess only time will tell, but we may find it that, or I should say, they may find it indefensible when they're confronted by investors concerned with the shift in the normalized compensation that they just reinstated in the face of just enormous losses of the previous quarter. I know my first question will be, where do you see the revenue uptick in the near future that justifies a shift in compensation levels? Or have you elected to follow Universal's lead in the theme park segment and reopen the parks in a broader way? That might be something that would indicate an uptick, that's for sure. Regardless of whatever answers that are given at that time, I do expect that the gradual return of guest levels to about 70% of capacity for Disney, at least in Walt Disney World, by year's end. And this means that by next quarterly report, we should see parks, products, and experiences returning to about 35% of last year's earnings, as of course Disneyland Resort still remains under the firm control of Comrade Supreme Gavin Newsom. Now, for Central Florida's sake, I hope that my projections are too conservative and that they reach near normal employment and tourism levels very soon. So, I guess in light of all of that, do you think that the compensation normalization for executives at Disney is an indicator of improved expectations and performance? Do you think that Disney intends to pull itself out of the dragging political narrative that it's allowed itself to fall into? And finally, do you think tourism as an industry in Florida is going to begin its recovery, at least Central Florida specifically, and do you think that'll be soon? I think it's hard to know, but I'm really hoping. Anyway, thanks for coming by and sharing a few moments here with me today. I usually don't dive this deeply into theme parks specifically on my channel, but it is something that I enjoy, and we are talking about a segment of recovery that we absolutely need. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and wash your hands. Make sure you do that for at least 20 seconds, everybody, because, you know, it's pretty healthy to do anyway. Support other independent creators here on the platform because they certainly deserve it. They work really hard to give you an alternate form of information and entertainment that you're not finding anywhere else. And of course, until next time, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.